So now we return to Gongchik. Gongchik chapter 6, statement 6, 6.4 is where we are at. So first of all, I think I should say that statement 6.4 to me is an important balancing of what is said in 6.2 and 6.3. 6.4 in my mind is an important kind of balancing of what is said in 6.2 and 6.3. 6.4 addresses some potential taking too far what is said in 6.2 and 6.3. So 6.4 kind of brings us back to a clear understanding so that you don't go too far in extending what is said in 6.2 and 6.3. So what do I mean here? So let's just look at the statement in 6.4. So 6.4, it says, if something is not included in the fundamental nature, it cannot turn into that by looking at it. So to make it more understandable, Sobish translates, if something is not included in the fundamental nature of a thing, it cannot turn into that by a way of looking at it. And so this is said to be in response to the prevalent idea or the mistaken idea that some people claim that since the nature of a thing is not fixed as a single thing, the nature of a thing is how one looks at it. In other words, so kind of like it's easy to read statement 6.2 and 6.3 and then to say, well, so since, things, since we talk so much about there is no essence to anything, there is no fixed nature to anything, so then, it all depends on how you look at it. If you look at it this way, then it can turn this way. If you look at it that way, then it can turn that way. Right? So this becomes like what I guess we would call like complete relativism. So completely everything is relative. And you do see kind of this view sometimes kind of being passed around because they think, oh, well, since, everything is empty of a nature, everything is empty of an essence, and things are just the way they are based on how we look at it, how we experience it, how the mind experiences it. So then, anything can be anything, right? Now, of course, for Gongchik, particularly what they're concerned about, it's not just like anything can become anything. What they're particularly concerned about is what? Anyone wants to guess? What are they particularly concerned about? In what way you apply this idea? Since everything doesn't have a nature, doesn't have an essence, and everything depends on the mind, then anything can become anything. What are they particularly concerned about?
I would guess that maybe perhaps diluting the Dharma and opening to conceptualizations entering the teachings.
Yeah, but there's a specific aspect of Dharma that they're particularly concerned about. Anyone? What area?
Is it that people would then think that nothing matters?
Yes, and particularly, yes, both you and Joan, yes, particularly what?
The fundamental nature of things.
Particularly what?
Morality, good and bad.
Virtue, non-virtue.
Then
Virtue,
people will
non-virtue.
use by saying that if you do non-virtue, it's the same as doing virtue. So no need, don't have to care about what you're doing. Just do whatever you want.
Or more so, yeah, like, oh, it's how you look at it, right? We say that often, you know. Oh, it's how you look at it. So if you look at it, you know, then a different result can come. So sort of like saying, if you kill, you know, but then you kill by understanding it differently, then maybe a different result will come. That something that the Buddha has said, has pointed out, that is a non-virtue. Like anger is a non-virtue. Like killing is a non-virtue. You cannot say, you know, oh, but it all depends on how you look at it. If you look at it from a different way, then killing can be virtuous. Now, this is not, you know, now this is not to say that you won't, like we won't find ourselves in a situation where we feel that this is a case of, like, I think this Gongchik tradition will be okay with us saying something like, which of these two is the lesser of two evils? Yes, they say, yes. In fact, often we might find ourselves in a situation where we have to choose the lesser of the two evils, so to say. But we should not say, you know, oh, it's not lesser of the two evils. In fact, this lesser evil is actually good. Such as the idea or the example of the Captain Compassion. I'm sure you have all heard of that. Captain Compassion was this captain who found himself with no other choice but to have to kill one passenger of this ship that he was responsible for in order to prevent this one passenger from his plan of killing 500 that is on board the ship. So in that story, right, you should not say that, oh, Captain Compassion did a good thing by killing the passenger. At most, according to Gongchik, that we can say is Captain Compassion chose the lesser of two evils. Because here, insofar as the act of killing goes, it is always non-virtuous. Now that he killed this person, right? So from that perspective, right, that killing is still a non-virtue, but it's the lesser of two evils. What is the greater evil? The greater evil is to allow this person to carry out his plan of killing 500. Because not only will the 500 be killed, but this person will carry the karma of killing the 500. So that will be the greater evil. So he chose the lesser evil. He killed this person. Now, there was also good that was generated which is the good that came from his extreme care, his extreme concern to prevent this person from killing, from causing harm to 500 bodhisattvas. It said that the other passengers were all bodhisattvas, and from this person carrying the karma of killing 500 persons. That is a virtuous act. But the killing, under no circumstance, is a virtuous act. And this, it says, we need to be clear about. You cannot say, oh, it's all, you know, if the motivation is pure, or if you look at it from this way or that way, then it can become justified, so to say. So this is particularly what this statement is concerned about, especially in the area of virtue and non-virtue. Questions or comments? Make sense? Or not? So if you look at the commentary, this Vajra statement is established through the following 4 reasons. The gnosis of omniscience comprehends what is and what is not appropriate. So here, first thing, it points to this issue of virtuous and non-virtuous actions, meaning that the primordial wisdom, which Sobish translates as gnosis, and the primordial wisdom, the prajna of all-knowingness. So all-knowingness or omniscience, which is a property that only Buddhas have. So he's saying, so Buddha has seen, you know, the Buddha's all-knowing wisdom sees accurately without mistake what is and what is not appropriate, and therefore has taught us that, and therefore we cannot say, oh, where the Buddha has prohibited or proscribed, and where the Buddha has prescribed or permitted, that can change. Because, no, that doesn't change. Because the Buddhas have seen clearly what is virtue remains virtuous all the time. What is non-virtue remain non-virtuous all the time. So that's one reason. Second reason, the opponent's position is incompatible with dependent origination, cause and result, i.e. the fundamental nature of the objects of knowledge. So it's saying that the opponents, the wrong view, right? That says that since things are not fixed, they can be whatever you want them to be. And it says that is actually not following dependent origination. That's ignoring that there is a principle that cause and effect operates on. Third, the claim is not established through the proof of valid knowledge as taught by the glorious Dharmakirti. This Dharmakirti is the Indian great master that taught what we would call logic. So Chodrat says, you know, from that perspective, you can also see why the wrong view is wrong. And fourth, taking one's confused mind as valid knowledge is a mistaken cognition. So 3 and 4, Chodra is appealing to his readers who has a lot of respect for the system of logic, which is a major topic studied by the academies, by the seminaries, by the debate schools of Tibetan Buddhism. So 3rd and 4th, maybe to us, maybe not much. But the 4th point, I think we can see that, like, so our confused mind, cannot be accepted as valid. We cannot say, oh, whatever our mind thinks it is, then it becomes that. So it makes no sense to subscribe to that. So further, next paragraph, it says, by looking at existent things as if they were non-existent and non-existent things as if they were existent, they are not established as being such. For example, fire is without the nature of moisture. Water is without the nature of heat. Earth is without the nature of flexibility, and wind is without the nature of solidity. And hence, conventionally, on the relative level, we have the 4 elements with those 4 properties specific to the elements, which is the element of fire has the nature of heat. The element of water have the nature of moisture. The element of earth have the nature of solidity. The element of wind has the nature of flexibility. That is what makes the 4 elements 4 elements. And so here, in a way, you could say it's also talking about, although the word nature is used here, I think you could say that this is not nature in the sense of emphasizing the emptiness side of things, but this is emphasizing the appearance side of things. So here the statement is saying the appearance side of things, even if the emptiness side of things says that nothing has inherent existence, nothing have essence, nonetheless, the way things appear, they appear according to principles that cannot be just thought away willy-nilly. Earth still, even if its innermost nature, earth element is empty of inherent existence, nonetheless, on the relative level, earth has the property of solidity. Wind has the property of flexibility. Fire has the property of heat. Water has the property of moisture. Therefore, reading on, being confused about these things, simply looking at a thing in that way does not make it so. So he goes on, he says, seeing a vent, a hole, as a seat, even if you sit down with confidence, since it does not have the nature of being a seat, you will undoubtedly fall into the opening. Eating poison, having seen it as medicine, one will die. And here is the real concern. That happiness comes about through virtue, and suffering through non-virtue is their fundamental nature. Even if one perceives it conversely, that is not going to change its nature. So to take it to the extreme, you might think, you might think something like, I will be generous with this person because by being generous, I will suffer. And then you do it. He's saying, it's not going to bring you suffering, Your generosity is only going to bring you happiness. Conversely, if you do, if you're angry at someone, if you generate anger and you think this is going to make you happy, no amount of your righteous or non-righteous anger is going to make you happy. Cause and result are infallible even on such high levels as the 10th stage, the 10th level, bodhisattva. And so some stories is alluded to here. So you follow so far? Everyone? Yes?
Yes.
Good. Now, in the next part in his discussion, he brings up some rather interesting question, which is basically, he says, wait, what about the miraculous display of like supernatural powers? Such as, a famous power, not just Buddhists, other religious traditions, the proverbial walking on water. He says, what about that? Doesn't that contradict what is said here? So the answer, all of samsara and nirvana is in absolute reality not different from one's mind. So we go back to 6.2. And one's mind is free from the extreme of proliferation. As it is taught, the siddhas are able to act in that way through the fundamental nature of mastering appearances within their minds. Since that nature serves as the cause, they can change the result within the cause. Okay, so what is being said here is this. In those cases where a great being, for example, is able to walk on water, there is not an effect that occurs without the proper cause. The proper cause is there. As in, this person has figured out how to alter the nature of, how to alter, not just like through like a confused mind thinking, oh, that water there, actually it's solid. Meaning like, like there's meaning what is being said here. There's a difference between someone thinking mistakenly, let's say the person is drunk, mistakenly thinking, oh, that is actually, ground, and he steps into water. No matter how strongly he believes that is ground, and this drunk person, that is ground, and he steps into water, he's going to sink. But a Mahasiddha, when he looks at the water and he says, I'm going to walk on it and go to the other side, and he walks, right? And he doesn't sink. What is the difference between these two? What do you say? What is the difference between these two?
Mind.
Say more. What about mind? Both, you can say, is perceiving that water different from you and I are perceiving that water. But what makes the difference?
Clarity of mind.
Sorry?
Clarity of mind.
Clarity of mind. Say more.
The city's mind is superior to the drunk.
Okay, yes. And superior in what way?
He's able to walk on water.
Well, that's the effect of the superiority.
Yes, the difference is in the mind. It's not in the water.
It's confused mind. The drunk has confused mind.
Yes, drunk has confused mind. The siddha, right, has a non-confused mind. Okay, apply into this situation. What else can we say? Yes, we're all correct. Yeah, we're on the right track. Yes, I want to zoom in a little bit more. What can we say?
He really understands how the things are.
He understands how things are. Yes, he understands, right, how to work with
Nature and things.
nature, correct. So he's not going against the laws of nature. So I think we can use our contemporary experiences to explain this very well, I think. Maybe not available to Chodrak's audience. To Chodrak's audience, this section talking about supernatural powers, right, is relevant to his cultural context. But I think for us, I feel we have a really good way of explaining this. This is what we call technology, right? Why a plane, which is how many tons, can fly in the sky, is not because the laws of nature, so how we call it, has been contradicted. It's not because a drunk thought very hard and say, I want to fly, and the plane flew. But these scientists, these technology people, they understand the laws of nature and they know how to work with it so that, you and me, we can hardly have this phone fly or levitate. And this phone is only what? Less than a pound. And meanwhile, a plane, there's how many tons is flying in the air. To those of us who don't understand, we look at that and we think, oh my God, that's magic. That's like against the law of nature. That's a miracle, right? Miracle, commonly understood, is like something that is an exception to how things normally work. But in fact, from the Buddhist perspective, from the Dharma's perspective, there are no miracles. In fact, the notion of miracles work better with a God-based system where God has established the rules for everything, but when he or she chooses to, those rules are suspended and miracles happen. But the Buddhist view is much closer to kind of the scientific view that we have now, which is no. All these things that happen, they happen due to somebody figuring out how to work with the laws of nature. And then it happens. So yes, the difference is between superior mind and confused mind. The difference is not in the water. Water remains water, with all its properties, its strengths, its weaknesses, but you figure out, you understand that, then you're able to do things that to those who don't understand, to those who don't see, they think, oh, that's magic. Oh, that's miracle. Yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So in the notes given by Sobich, he quotes Dorshema and Rinjangma, and there it's really talking about superior minds. So he says, how can these people, these siddhas, these great practitioners do things that we cannot do? Is it because, that they simply think, oh, that wall there, it's not, the essence is not there. There's no essence to that wall. And then they simply walk in the wall and they can do it. It's like, no. Because that's not enough for you to walk through the wall. Can you walk through the wall? Yes, you can. By creating the causes for that. And the causes, now, of course, you may or may not choose to believe in how it happens, but it's showing that the principle here is, so like 545, it says, these things can occur from attaining the all-pervading and the suppressing concentrations. But these samadhis are not attained without accomplishing the cause. The samadhis are attained by accomplishing the cause, that is the abandonment of sense pleasures and the gathering of the causes and conditions based on the 4 dhyanas or jhanas. Through familiarization and habituation with these samadhis, in the mental continuum of a person, there exists the nature that agrees with his wishes. Therefore, he obtains mastery of such a quality. And so this is technology from Dorje Sherab's time. Now we have technology based on what scientists are doing. So in the end, you know, like in my mind, the significance of so-called supernatural powers, supernormal powers in the Dharma context, to me, it's exactly the same as what, you know, technology, modern technology does. So in other words, it's just not very interesting. Although we like miraculous signs. Ooh, you know, that statue is bleeding blood, or, you know, like Jesus statues are bleeding blood. In the Buddhist side, they have things like that. They're like, oh, this statue, there is some nectar flowing from it. Oh, this person passed away, they burn, and there's these relics, and people keep the relics, you know. Those things are very exciting, yes. But if you really understand this principle, it's no more exciting than the microwave oven, which is pretty exciting to me, you know. The microwave oven. Ooh, look at that. It's like every time, you know, you get on a plane, well, these days we can't get on the plane, but when you get on the plane, you know, sometimes, you know, we take it for granted, but we really should be like, wow, how in the world is this happening? To fly in the sky. Of course, we're very excited. Milarepa flew, you know. Yeah, Milarepa flew, yes, you know. But he can only take himself. Now, you know, Boeing 747, you know, how many hundred people can fly?
I see a connection between this and our discussion of the child of illusion.
Yeah. A child of illusion, you know, a product of illusion. So once you understand how illusion works, you know, then you can become one translation of child of illusion. Actually, Trungpa Rinpoche translated as a master of illusions. You become the master conjurer. But before you can become the master conjurer, you need to see the conjuring nature of everything. Then you learn the spells. Then you can cast the spells. So the discussions here in Dorshema and Rinjangma really focuses on how through the superior mind that is being trained, that's where the causes come into play. So everything is based on the proper cause producing proper effects. In other words, drunkenly thinking that wall is not solid, no matter how strongly you believe in that, you don't have the cause to walk through the wall unobstructed. An illness causing you to be delirious thinking that water is that what is the pool, water is like the ground that you're standing on, and you step into that water, you're still going to sink because you don't have the correct cause for walking on water. But can someone walk on water? Yes, it's possible. Now look at cruise ships. Oh my God, like thousands of people walking on water. The proper causes are there for that experience. So in other words, 6.4 is saying, you know, don't make the wrong conclusions about what is said by 6.2 and 6.3. So 6.2 says everything that we experience is completely determined by mind. But it doesn't mean that there is no rhyme or reason. It doesn't mean that fanciful thinking can get you things that you want, but it's a skillful training of the mind, whether in a meditation way or, you know, scientists applying their minds towards solving physical problems. It all takes principle training. Six, 4. Good? I want to say, you know, when you study something like this, and of course here we're studying Gongchik, yeah. Please, the lessons that you learn here is to help us to see more clearly the correct view of the principles taught by the Buddha. And so one of the ways that you can improve your understanding of the Dharma is you should apply what you have learned here to what you see other people or other books are writing about, other Dharma books. I'm not suggesting that you do this in order to become proud, prideful, criticizing other writers, other points of views. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that there's a lot of some qualified and some unqualified, really, publishing of supposedly Buddha Dharma that is out there. And we kind of like rather undiscerning, simply accepting whatever because some big name wrote it, or, you know. And the truth is, like, you know, a lot of the big names, it's all ghost writers too. And so we just take it, you know, like, oh yes, yes, oh yes, yes, you know. But then it's all fuzzy in there. So you should start applying what you're learning here. Right? If you understand, you appreciate, and you accept what you're hearing here, then use those as lens. You're building a set of lens. Then you look at, you know, this piece of writing, this piece of teaching, and you should be able to see and go, yes, this is sound understanding. Or you can see how, oh no, this is a little bit dangerous here, based on what the Gongchik is warning us against. So I think this is important to do. Otherwise, what you're learning here is sort of like a vacuum, or like you're learning it and then that's it. No, you should bring together, right? With, as you read other things, as you look at other things, especially other things that are also the Dharma, right? You should be able to see, you know, is this view in accord with what I have learned? And then, of course, you can say, if it is not, is there a way to take what is here and find a way for me to learn and to benefit from this other view, I would say of course you do that as well. It's not just like, oh, this doesn't agree, this is wrong. I'm not asking you to make judgments who is right and who is wrong, but I am saying whatever you're learning here, you have to be able to apply in your assessment of what else you're learning, what else you're taking in as the Buddha Dharma. You must be able to see what else other people are teaching. You must be able to take it in, and in this way we begin to build some kind of clear understanding within us that can arise. Questions, comments? No?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this statement from when we studied it at the Casa Tibet, Guatemala.
Mm-hmm.
Could you please try to rephrase it? Because I remember when you said it in Guatemala and rephrased it, it was so much clearer.
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay.
Here, I here it's saying, like everything is still, even in relative phenomena, which is illusory. Cause and effect is a principle that cannot be ignored.
Okay.
So just because we say, on the absolute level, everything is empty of inherent existence, it doesn't mean things happen haphazardly.
Okay.
There's still a logic in operation in confusion. In fact, the confusion is related to being confused about this fact that there is a logic that operates. Whether in samsara or in nirvana, this logic, this principle of cause and effect is valid.
Okay. That's good to keep in mind, that the confusion is itself confusing fundamental nature and cause and effect.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That helps.
Mm-hmm. And you can see, I can tell you, there are, especially in Mahayana material and Vajrayana material, there are views like that, that sort of say, oh, in the ultimate state, cause and effect is secondary, or cause and effect is no longer relevant. There's a lot of, you can quote texts, people can simply write about it, and there's lots of talk like this. Then for those of us who are very familiar with like earlier layers of the Buddhist tradition, and currently represented in Theravada traditions, you'll see that in these earlier layers, they don't talk in such bombastic terms. So they don't run into so much of a problem about transcending this, transcending that. It's grounded. In that way, the Gongchik is also similarly very grounded. So those friends, those of you in Malaysia that are quite familiar with the earlier layer, I think for us, when we read this, you're like, yeah, of course. But I see, especially in the West, and then now even in Asia, those who are very educated, are so captivated by this profound view. Oh, in emptiness, in the ultimate state, there is nothing whatsoever, nothing that you can say, nothing. But they go on talking about how there's nothing you can say, nothing you can conceptualize. It's like, it's like, okay, shut up. If there's nothing you can say, don't say. But when you spend so much, time and obsession with the ultimate, the ultimate, the ultimate, what you are at the risk of doing is you will create a lot of suffering on the relative experience that you have right now.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
We're learning that the so-called appearances externally have cause and effect.
Yes.
Cause and effect is unavoidable.
Mm-hmm.
We also learned that,
and externally, internally, all cause and effect is that.
Right. That's what I was getting to, is internally, if the mind is made of the same thing as the rest of reality, that also means that what is going on in our minds has cause and effect.
Yes, of course. Fundamentally, it's the mind, actually.
Yeah.
Cause
So
and
where
effect on that level.
Right. So where does the intention, like the decision to do something different, or the decision to, or the resolve to do something different, for virtuous or non-virtuous, where does that come from? It just appears.
What do you mean, where does that come from?
Well, cause and effect is sort of we're on a path towards determinism. One thing causes the next, causes the next.
Yeah, no, but in there, every point you can create a new cause.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's not determinism.
Right.
It's not deterministic in the absolute sense. It's deterministic as in it's action-oriented. It's an action-oriented path.
Right. But where does the volition come in the present moment? Where does it come from?
You create.
Okay.
And you are more likely to create this or that kind of volition based on the habit patterns that you have encouraged.
Yep.
So if you encourage negative habit patterns, then the volition is more likely to be negative. Then when you want to create a positive volition, it's a lot harder. But karma is about intention. It's about, it's about making choices. But is it like can we say, therefore, both you and I have the same chances of making the right choice? No. That's depending on what kind of habit patterns that you have cultivated, encouraged, let happen, and what kind have I. So some of us are predisposed in a certain way. Some of us are predisposed in other ways. But nonetheless, every moment, we still make a choice. We still create action. We still create karma every moment. So our past karma, our habit patterns, yeah, they predispose us. But nonetheless, in each moment, we make a choice. And with every choice we make, we then further, right? Further kind of feed the habit pattern. So often I've said, you know, the problem of karma, so to say, as in the karmic cause and effect problem, it's not so much like yes, you know, a certain action, a certain negative action will produce a negative result. So that's one level of the problem. But a deeper level of the problem is the habit pattern that you are cultivating beyond the single ripening of a single cause. So like stealing something, later on it manifests in a certain way. In that way, that's finished. You know, that's not even that frightful. But what is frightful is when you steal and you get into the habit of stealing, then you don't even think twice. Then you are continuously stealing, and all the negative states of mind associated with stealing that you don't even recognize it to be a problem. And so this is related to 6.4. Just because you don't think stealing is negative doesn't mean, you know, that stealing is going to be fine for you because, well, I never thought stealing was bad, so how is it a problem?
That gets back to this all-encompassing nature of reality and how vast this whole thing is, and why it's so important that we be mindful in as many moments as we can.
Yes.
Ultimately in each moment.
Yes.
Because we can change. That's so difficult in the moment to remember. But that's the idea, I suppose.
So hence, you know, back to meditation as a way to train the mind, right? So right now, these are concepts, you know. In fact, Gilbert Rinpoche, why he is so seeming, you know, like to those of us who are very committed to studying, it seems like he is attacking studying, but he's not attacking studying. Right? He's also, likewise, you could say, he will also attack like being stuck on experiences of meditation. Fundamentally, the real problem here is, or what he is most concerned about is, whenever we take whatever intellectual understanding that we have and think of it that, oh, I now understand this, or I now have experienced that. Whatever we grasp that as my belief, my realization, my concepts, my teacher, my tradition, my lineage, the moment you relate to Dharma in those terms, you have already started to turn Dharma into something slightly poisonous. That's why he consistently in his teachings, whether Gongchik or in the things that we're translating, he's always like cutting, helping to cut off any kind of fixation. Because the moment, you know, whatever we grasp onto and say, that's mine, then a cause of suffering has arisen there. So whether you are tied to a golden anchor or an iron anchor or a concrete anchor, when this anchor is thrown in the water, you sink in the same way. You will drown in the same way. Yes, Nathan? Yes, Nathan?
Oh, my fault. Nothing to say.
Then it comes back, it comes back to needing to watch the mind, needing to train the mind, needing to settle the mind. So it comes back to, so in fact, in the old days, Kyoba Rinpoche's tradition, a lot of basically meditation. It says that from the first half of the month, he will teach in the mornings, and then in the afternoon, all his students will go back into their rooms, their caves, and meditate. Then in the second half of the month, the whole day, that's what they do. Then the next month, again, the first half of the month, only in the morning session, he gives instructions, he gives guidance. Then in the afternoon, you go back and train your mind. In fact, in his time also, pretty clear, there's very little major like rituals and, fancy long rituals, I think it's quite clear that he did not emphasize that. In fact, he told them not to build, an assembly hall where he is up in Gongchik. Of course, today there is an assembly hall, but in his own time, he said, don't. He says, not necessary. In fact, it will be a distraction. And so he really emphasized the need for each of us to really watch their own mind. There's nothing else to do but watch this mind, train this mind, settle this mind. That when you begin to look at this directly, then there is so much to learn, so much to train, so much to do without needing to do anything else. That was his emphasis. I'm not saying that that is the only way. I'm not saying that, we all have to do that way. But what I am saying is appreciating this emphasis, this way of looking is very helpful. It will help us. It will remind us of like what is the most important aspect of Dharma practice, and then to help keep us focused. Then each of us, we have different circumstance, we have different situation, we have different possibilities, different challenges. You have to take responsibility for your own process. Again, thank you. I'm amazed, like every day, like 3 times a week, so to say, every day. There is 25 of us that is able to spend a couple of hours. So from the perspective of merit, this pandemic, we are creating a lot of merit for ourselves. Without this pandemic, if I were to say, let's do this 3 times a week, all of us have been like, oh no, I don't think, including myself. It's like, oh no, I'm going to be busy, blah, blah, blah. So please think about Sakadawa home retreat. See if you can do it. Like I said, I understand, you know, the timing might not work for everyone to 9 o'clock every day, but you can still commit to the home retreat. If you say this 14 days, you know, I will do the practice recommended, which is the Shakyamuni Buddha and 16 Arhat puja, and then either studying the Gongchik or reading the Lalita Vistara. Yeah. So one thing, so this means this Saturday is the first day of this schedule. So we are not meeting for Gongchik this Friday. Take a little bit break, relax a little before we go into the Buddhist Lent more intensely. So you go into this more intensely, and not with like, you know, a heavy, like, oh, it's going to be intense, you know. Actually, you need to be relaxed, you know, need to be relaxed about it. Need to be spacious about it. Otherwise, you know, you do 14 days of self-torture. It is not about giving yourself space. So it's space, but focused. Focused, but spacious. So you have to approach it. You have to enter this period with this attitude. Then it's skillful practice. Then it's you can see the benefits, the results. Yeah? So we will not meet Friday, but Saturday we will start the first day of Sakadawa. Of course, those of you who are involved in Kagyu Sangha, we will meet tonight. And then tomorrow night is the Open Sangha Mahayana Lojo. That, of course, will continue. So, okay, Tata. Changchu sem joren boji ma ge ba nam ge gyu ji ge ba nyam pa me pa yang gong ne gong du one thing to point out, this picture that is used for the cover of this book, historians think it's very much accurate in terms of what Kyoba Rinpoche looked like. Often paintings of lamas tend to be very generic because they follow a particular grid. In the traditional Thangka painting, creativity is limited in many ways. There's a lot of room for creativity for sure, but it's also kind of limited, and especially the shape of face and all that tends to be very fixed. But this definitely is a specific person rather than a template. So most people think that this is very accurate to how he physically looked. Just FYI. Tata.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Gracias.
Thank you. Bye.